Hello Internet! My name is Michael, and this is my channel, The Natural One. Today, I want to go over a topic that I think every GM should take into mind. But first, let me tell you a quick story. Your party has done many great things. Once upon a time, they were level 1, and they were scared of every little thing. They took on small bandit nests, fought orcs, raiders, and everything in between. You've laughed, you've cried, you've had your adventures, and now you're level 15, going after a lich. It's one of the final midway battles as you're fighting one of his vampiric underlings, as you watch him point his finger at one of your friends and cast the devastating spell, Power Word Kill. The party member falls. But the very next turn, your cleric rushes over, casting Revivify on him. The spell goes off without a hitch. And the fighter, who was once dead, now gets right back up and charges at the vampire and continues the fight. Sure, with a few negatives, but he's alive. And that brings me to our main topic, resurrection magic. The scene I just played out to you has played out on many game tables, thousands of times over. And it makes combat and everything like that seem somewhat trivial. There's no longer any true consequences for failure. Your fighter can go down. Your mage can go down. Your ranger can go down. Everybody can go down. Die, even. Fail every death saving throw they have. But as long as the cleric is there, or the party knows where they can find a cleric who knows either the Revivify spell, regeneration spell, resurrection spells of any kind, the party has nothing to fear. Yeah, the bad guy might win. You might win the battle in the end, but as long as we can grab the corpses of our dead friends, we can drag them back to the church and have them resurrected. So, yeah, the DM's greatest ability that he had is now stolen from underneath him. Death. It is the ultimate consequence. And it's stolen from the DM so early on. As soon as the cleric reaches his first level 5 spell, he can cast a Revivify. And as long as that corpse has not been dead for longer than a minute, that corpse gets right back up. It doesn't even take that long. It's just a touch spell. And that really messes with me. Very recently, actually, I've had an NPC. The party liked him a lot, whose name was Drevin. He was the father to one of the main characters in the party, and in a desperate event, he tried to save his daughter. Failing in the process, he was killed. His sacrifice in vain. And I don't mean to diss anybody in the party. The consequences are drawn right underneath from that, because the druid knew the reincarnate spell. And so Drevin got right back up. He's a human now, and he's thankful, definitely. But it kind of took away from that moment. The last session, we were crying. We were sad. There was party members that we'd never get back. And, you know, in one session, that was just all of that emotional turmoil was fixed. Now, I understand why some DMs need these and actually do these things. You've been working with these characters for so long. These campaigns probably have been going on for a year minimum to get up to that level, or even longer if your characters have now gone to level 10, level 15, and they have all of the resurrection spells available to them. And you don't want to lose them. I get it. I get it. You get very attached to your character. I definitely got very attached to my first character, and my second one and my third one. They're all very close to my heart, and I don't want to see any of them die, but at the same time, if there isn't the opportunity for death, there are no stakes. Fights feel more like a chore rather than a teeth-grinding experience where you're always wondering, will I be next? Will I die? Oh dear God, I'm only on 25 hit points, and he just deals 100. I can die. So, with these rules in mind, I made a bit of a compromise with my players. It's a homebrewed rule, and it comes down to either two options. One, all resurrection magic is gone. That is one option. It works because it makes death seem so much more powerful, but I rarely use it. Mostly because it's a bit absolute, and you know, the game developers put it in the book for a reason. So I go on to my second option, which is my personal favorite and the same one that you see Critical Role uses, which is the ritual. Let me explain. When a character dies in the campaign of, let's say, just old age or natural causes, a heart attack, if it's the first time they die, they start with a DC of 10. Now, I can, at that point, go up to him and cast Revivify. In Revivify's case, I can then have to roll a die to see if I do the ritual properly and I can pull his soul back into his body. At which point, if I beat the DC of 10 by whatever means, he then comes back. However, every time a character is rejuvenated or brought back, that DC that was once 10 goes up to 15. Basically, every time they die, increase the DC by 5. Makes a decent sense. The idea being that every time you pull back somebody into your soul, less of your body, I mean, there's less of you to come back. Essentially, because dying is a traumatic experience, and I'm sure your soul is going to get a little bit tattered from all of that. To add on a little flavor to it all, another thing that you can do is add on additional DC modifiers. For example, if the character died traumatically, say he lost his leg, for example, or his body was severely mangled, his intestines pulled out of his stomach, that could increase the DC from 10, and let's say, okay, a dramatic head wound, increase the DC by 3. Pretty traumatic. Also increase the DC by other means, such as perhaps the soul is not willing to come back, or perhaps your character's soul is currently being vied over by gods, or increase it because maybe the Lich is trying to suck that soul into his hands, or into his phylactery of some kind, making the DC harder and harder. Now, this seems a bit unfair. However, there's a second part of the rule. Players can reduce it by using special kinds of resurrection magic. Let me explain. You see, with Revivify in my campaigns, that is the most basic resurrection magic you can get, and there is no way you can bring down the DC. However, with higher resurrection magic, whatever it means by whatever, you get to increase the amount of ritual, seeing as those are usual ritual cast spells, and the whole ritual add on to it. You do the main spell, and you or other party members can add on to that ritual. Bring in things, or say words, or do actions that they believe would tie that character to his body, his soul, the need to live, for lack of better terms. For example, if the character had a fondness for a certain drink, pour him a cup of that wine, and pour a little bit into his mouth, and ask him to remember those fond times back in Antivia. You do a roll for that, be it persuasion, in this case, or if it's a performance check, if he loved a certain song and you start strumming it on your instrument, and depending on how well you do, you can reduce the DC by a certain amount. Natural 20s in my case, I always reduce the DC by 4. The highest in my case is I usually reduce it by 3, but that can all be homebrewed by you. The lowest form of this resurrection ritual will allow you to have 3 possible things to lower the DC. The player himself will decide if these things actually would tie his character back to the real world. He would do so privately with the DM, of course, and the DM would take note of these things and goes, all right, well, his body was mangled horribly, so that's a +3. This is his first time being resurrected, so it's only a base DC of 10, so that's 13 base. The wine was good, so that's going to lower the DC by 2. The song was beautiful and you performed it perfectly, that's going to reduce it again by 2. But you didn't do so well when trying to invoke him to remember his god. So you're probably only going to get maybe 1. So from a DC of 13, 1, 2, 3, 4, from a DC of 13, that's going to reduce it from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. brings down the DC to 8. Much better odds. And so, privately, the DM will roll a die and see if the DC passes. Afterwards, the character can be brought back with a -3 to all stats. This minus will be taken away as time goes on. As each day passes, he will gain 1 more back. Why am I doing this? Well, like I said, death is a traumatic experience, and so the body is still going to be very numb, it's still going to be very cold, it's still going to be believing that it's dead, for lack of better terms. So, that is my solution to the problem of resurrection magic. So, do you agree with me? Do you don't agree? Is there other better ways you can think of? Please tell me in the comment section below. Please continue the conversation, and I will see you next time.